My name is Alexandra Smith, and for my capstone project, I've been working on bringing personalized education to the virtual classroom or kinesthetic learning in the hands-off environment. So over the past 2 years, I've been focusing on finding ways to improve online learning for children and students who have previously learned in a more hands-on way. So first, we're going to talk about how the pandemic affected education. So when the world was plagued by the global pandemic in 2020, students had to sacrifice their education to help save and change the world. The education of the next generation of leaders, lawyers, and lifesavers is supposed to be one of the most important missions in a teacher's career, but many of those students got left behind. With the limited options that teachers have to get material to students, those who learn in ways previously only offered in the classroom did not get the style of learning that they deserved during online school. This took away the opportunity for these students to get the information needed to develop their education in a way that they can become the future that this country needs. So, with that being said, we're going to discuss the learning style's impact on these children's education. So, the learning style of a student is a crucial part of their educational experience. If a student isn't using their learning style, their brain isn't learning in a way that works for them, and they're not gaining the full education they deserve. So for many in-person students, kinesthetic or hands-on learning is the preferred method. When we were forced into online school, the option of hands-on learning got taken away. These students began to struggle to find new ways to retrain their brains and learn in a way they're not accustomed to. So let's talk a little bit more about why I chose this topic. As many hands-on learners could tell you, there are not many strategies we've yet to try. Personally, I have spent most of my academic career thus far finding new ways to improve my education. Most of these strategies focused on in-class learning, as I spent the majority of my academic career in the classroom. So in 2020, when the pandemic began, I was in the spring semester of my senior year, and I had to learn very quickly how to adapt to online learning when I was thrown into virtual school. Even with Zoom classes where I could ask a million questions, I did not find that helpful. I never found a strategy that worked for me. So in those short months, I was struggling and never got my education back to where it was before online school began, and I was not learning to my full potential. So, with this in mind, at the beginning of my capstone project, I chose this topic and sent out a survey to many of my peers from high school and many of my peers from Calhoun and asked them to share their experiences with online learning. Let's take a look at those survey results. So, for the survey sent out to my peers and educators, 73% of students who took the survey stated they did not feel like they were absorbing the same amount of information they did before COVID-19 forced them online. 73% of survey takers also stated they viewed their learning style as kinesthetic, and that same 73% said they felt like they were absorbing less information than they did. So this states that the majority of the students who took the survey, at least, are kinesthetic learners who are being left behind. So I have included a couple of graphs for us to take a look at. This graph shows that the 73% of students did not feel like they were absorbing the same amount of information they did in classroom. And this graph shows us that that same 73% felt like they were absorbing less information than they did in the classroom. This led me to want to test some theories to improve learning and find a way to help this majority. So, over the last year and a half, I've been working, testing, and documenting these different strategies to help improve online learning. Flashcards, annotated note-taking, reading repetition, those are just a few of the styles I've tried. They've been slightly effective in improving my quality of education. They differ from in-classroom methods because they rely solely on copying information from textbooks and videos and announcement posts, rather than the professors or teachers relaying this information directly to me. So with online learning, you can never be fully sure that the information you're studying is what is going to be on the exam or test. So it's a little more difficult to know that you're absorbing the right information, not only the same amount of information. So, a couple of the in-class methods I carried over with me were handwritten note-taking, which proved to be the most effective, chapter reading, labs. Recreating labs is a little more difficult at home. I was able to recreate a few labs over my time at Calhoun, but always practice safety guidelines if you're going to try recreating labs. Lecture listening and written flashcards. Handwritten note-taking was the most effective because I was able to see and edit the information in front of me in my own handwriting. The downfall of this is, again, you're not always certain what the information you're copying is the correct information. If you're taking notes directly from a textbook, it's hard to know exactly what information you need to be writing down. So for online methods, let's take a look at those. The online methods I chose to help study were virtual labs, Quizlets, written notes from recorded lectures, and a workbook that follows recorded lectures. The written notes and the workbook were the most effective, the workbook being more effective than the written notes just because the workbook was made by the professor herself, and it really helped me to follow through her videos and know that the information that I had was the information I needed to have. The downfall of this practice is it is not a very common practice between teachers and professors, so many students may become spoiled to it, and I found that after practicing in the workbook, I would revert back to less successful methods of studying in my other classes because I didn't have the workbook. This being said, subject matters. So one of the major factors I found during my trials is that the subject you are trying to learn plays a major part in the practice that you're going to choose for your study habits. So for English and history, textbook reading and flashcards worked just great for me. Handwritten flashcards a little better than Quizlet just because it was me copying the information, seeing it in front of me in my handwriting. However, for like science and math courses, note-taking, practice problems, labs were the most effective because it's harder to make flashcards and stuff like that for labs. You're not sure the information you're studying repetitively is the information that you truly need to be studying again. There is one other major setback I found during online learning. So the final major setback I found was that these students have never met or seen many of their professors. These are students that thrive on visuals and piecing things together, and they're being taught by these faceless names. So for me, I found that the only professor I truly ever felt comfortable reaching out to during my time at Calhoun was Miss Leah Fountain, my honors professor. She was the only one I ever met face-to-face or Zoomed with. So she was the only one that if I had a question, I could email her. That being said, advisors were a little different. So I would say that this setback mainly goes for professors. I never really had a problem emailing my advisor with questions, just my actual class professors. So I would encourage professors, teachers, educators to record videos more and Zoom with their kids, offer office hours. I know that wasn't really possible during the pandemic, but as we're getting over the hump a little bit, it is a better possibility, and I know many kids are online due to schedule conflicts and stuff like that, but if you can, it would be really great for these kids to be able to see their professors face to face. So I look forward to any questions, comments, concerns, feedback about my project. I appreciate everybody taking the time to listen to me, and I hope any kinesthetic learners out there use some of these methods, test them, find what's best for you, because I know a lot of us have been left behind during the pandemic, and I hope that you find a way that works for you, and I look forward to hearing more from everybody in the future.